Welcome back to the Wilderness Protocol. My name is Matt, and I've worked at the Thornfield Group Home for 8 years now. Most people think we're just another facility for troubled kids. The state paperwork says we handle children with unique behavioral challenges. That's one way to put it. The truth is more complicated. These aren't ordinary children. Each one was born from a pact between a human parent and something else. Something that isn't human. The contracts vary. But they all end the same way, with a child who looks normal on the surface but carries something deeper inside them. Dr. Evelyn Marsh runs the facility. She hired me fresh out of college and explained the rules on my first day. There are only 5 of them, but they keep everyone safe. Rule 1. Never ask a child about their other parent. They know what they are, but talking about it makes things worse. Rule 2. Each child eats alone. Always. No exceptions. Rule 3. If a child asks you to play a game, you say no and walk away immediately. Rule 4. Never be alone with more than one child at a time. Rule 5. All children must be in their rooms with doors closed by sunset. Check the locks twice. These rules aren't suggestions. Dr. Marsh told me that first day. They're the difference between going home to your family and not going home at all. The center houses 12 children, ages 6 to 16. From the outside, they look like any other kids. But there are small differences if you know what to look for. Take Rosemary, who's 9. She has bright red hair and loves to draw pictures of flowers. But she only draws them wilting. Every single flower in every picture is dying or dead. When I asked her why once, she just smiled and said, "Because that's what flowers do when I'm around." Then there's Tobias. He's 14, tall for his age, and polite to a fault. But he never blinks. Not once in 8 years have I seen that kid blink. His eyes just stay open, watching everything with a steady gaze. The youngest is Clover, only 6 years old. She loves stuffed animals, but every single one is missing its eyes. She pulls them out within hours of getting a new toy. When I asked Dr. Marsh about it, she just said, "Clover doesn't like being watched." There's Rin, who's 12 and speaks in perfect sentences, but only talks backward. She'll say something like, "Today, sunny, very is it?" And you have to flip it around in your head to understand. Then we have Felix, 8 years old, who only eats food that's been burned. Not just cooked well done, but actually charred black. We have to scrape his meals until they look like chunks of coal. The older kids are more challenging. Vera is 15 and beautiful in a way that makes people stare. Looking at her face makes you forget what you were thinking about. Jasper is 16 and collects small objects, arranging them in perfect circles on his desk. Exactly 12 items in each circle. The hardest part about working here isn't the strangeness of the children. It's how normal they can seem. These moments make you want to bend the rules. But the rules exist for a reason. I learned that lesson 3 years ago with a kid named Dex. He was 10 and seemed like the most normal kid we'd ever had. The only unusual thing about Dex was that he always knew what time it was, down to the minute, without ever looking at a clock. One evening, I was doing my rounds when Dex appeared in the hallway, looking upset. "Matt," he said, "can you help me with something in my room? I lost something under my bed." I should have followed Rule 4, but Dex seemed genuinely distressed. When we got to his room, I knelt down to look under the bed. That's when I realized my mistake. There was already someone under there, Clover, curled up in the corner, watching me with wide eyes. 2 children. 1 room. Me in the middle. But we're playing a game. Dex said from behind me, "Don't you want to play too?" "No," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I need to get Clover back to her room." The game is really fun. You just have to close your eyes and count to 10. That's when Dex touched my shoulder. The moment his hand made contact, everything changed. The room felt different, like the air itself had thickened. I could hear Clover's giggling getting louder, but it sounded like it was coming from everywhere at once. I jerked away from his touch and got out of there as fast as I could. Within an hour, Dex was transferred to a different facility. I never saw him again. The rules aren't arbitrary, Dr. Marsh told me later. Each one exists because someone learned the hard way what happens when you break them. After that incident, I followed the rules exactly. No exceptions. No matter how harmless something seemed. That's why I was concerned when we got word that a new child was coming. Her name was Zara, and she was 7 years old. According to her file, her mother had made a pact when Zara was still in the womb. She's different from the others, the social worker warned Dr. Marsh. More aware somehow, like she understands exactly what she is. The day Zara arrived, I was struck by how ordinary she looked. Brown hair in pigtails, big curious eyes, a small backpack clutched in her hands. She could have been any 7-year-old starting at a new school. Zara, this is Matt, Dr. Marsh said. He's going to show you around and help you get settled. Zara looked up at me and smiled. Hi, Matt. I like your name. The Strong. As we walked to her room, she chattered about her favorite colors and her stuffed rabbit named Hopper. When I explained the rules, especially that children don't play together, she said matter-of-factly, because we're dangerous. The casual way she said it caught me off guard. Most children took weeks or months to acknowledge their nature. My mommy explained everything before I came here, Zara said. She said I need to be very careful not to hurt anyone. Over the next few days, Zara settled in remarkably well. She followed all the rules without complaint and never asked to play with the other children. But there was something different about her that I couldn't put my finger on. The other children seemed to notice her in a way they didn't notice each other. When she walked down the hall, Tobias would stop whatever he was doing and watch her pass. Rosemary would look up from her drawings and follow Zara's movement until she disappeared around a corner. Most unsettling was how Vera reacted. Usually, being around Vera made you forget your thoughts. But when Zara was nearby, Vera seemed to become more focused, more present. On Zara's 5th day at Thornfield, I was doing evening rounds when I heard singing. It was a soft, sweet voice coming from Zara's room. The melody was unfamiliar, but there was something about it that made me want to keep listening. I knocked gently on her door. Zara, is everything okay in there? The singing stopped immediately. Yes, Matt, I'm just playing with Hopper. I continued my rounds, but when I finished, I decided to walk past Zara's room one more time. The singing had started again, but this time I could make out some of the words. They weren't in English or any language I recognized. Then I heard another voice join in. Then another. And another. Multiple voices. All singing the same haunting melody. All coming from Zara's room. But all the other children should have been locked in their rooms by now. I had checked each one myself. I pressed my ear to the door, trying to count how many different singers I could hear. At least 4. Maybe 5. That's when I realized the truth. The other children weren't in Zara's room. They were all in their own rooms. Doors locked, just like they were supposed to be. But somehow, they were all singing together. The same song, in perfect harmony, despite being separated by walls and distance. I ran to find Dr. Marsh. When I told her what was happening, her expression grew serious. We walked quickly to the children's wing, and as we got closer, the singing became audible again. How long has this been going on? She asked. About 20 minutes. Just Zara singing alone at first. But now, we stood in the hallway, listening to the supernatural chorus. Every child in the facility was singing the same song in the same language with perfect timing. Their voices blended together despite being separated by thick walls and locked doors. Dr. Marsh pressed her ear to different doors. Tobias's room. Then Clover's. Then Wren's. Each revealed another voice adding to the choir. This has never happened before, Dr. Marsh said quietly. In 15 years of running this facility, the children have never connected like this. The singing continued for another few minutes, then gradually faded away. One by one, the voices stopped until only Zara's remained. Then silence fell over the entire wing. We need to separate her from the others, Dr. Marsh said finally. Tonight. She explained about an isolated room in the basement. Soundproof. Reinforced door. Separate ventilation system. We'd never had to use it before. Dr. Marsh. What exactly was in Zara's file? She was quiet for a long moment, then sighed. Zara's mother didn't just make a pact for power or wealth like most of them do. She made a pact for knowledge. Specifically, she wanted to know how to communicate with all the children born from these agreements. And the price. Her daughter would become a conduit, a bridge between their world and ours. Zara doesn't just carry something inhuman inside her. She can reach out to the others and wake up what they carry, too. We spent the next hour preparing the basement room and explaining to Zara that she needed to move. I understand, she said when Dr. Marsh told her about the temporary relocation. I tried to be good, but it's hard to control. Control what? Sweetheart. The calling. They all have the same thing inside them that I do. But theirs are sleeping. Mine is awake. And it wants to wake up theirs, too. She packed her belongings without complaint and followed us to the basement. When she saw the room, she looked around with curious acceptance. Will I be able to hear them from down here? She asked. No, Dr. Marsh said. This room is soundproof. Zara nodded solemnly. That's probably for the best. When they're all awake at the same time, it gets very crowded in my head. As we prepared to leave, she called after me. Matt, thank you for being kind to me. I know I'm different from the others. More different. You're still just a kid, Zara. Don't forget that. She smiled sadly. I wish I could. The next morning, I arrived at work to find Dr. Marsh already in her office, on the phone with someone. Her voice was tense. Yes, I understand the protocols, she was saying. But we've never dealt with a conduit before. She hung up and looked at me with tired eyes. The regional office is sending a team to evaluate Zara. They'll be here this afternoon. How is she doing this morning? That's the thing. She's been completely silent since we put her in the basement room. It's like she just turned off. Before I could respond, Patricia, one of the day shift workers, knocked on the door. Dr. Marsh, I think you need to see something. We followed her to the main common area. All the children were standing motionless in the center of the room in a perfect circle, facing inward. They weren't speaking or making any noise. They were just standing there, completely still, like they were waiting for something. How long have they been like this? Dr. Marsh asked. About 10 minutes. They all just stood up at the same time and moved into this formation. Dr. Marsh walked around the circle, studying each child's face. They didn't follow her movement or acknowledge her presence. They just stood there, looking toward the center of their circle. Waiting. They're listening. Dr. Marsh said quietly. Even from the basement. Even through soundproof walls. She's still calling to them. The children remained in their circle for 3 hours. We tried everything to break them out of it. Favorite foods. Cartoons at full volume. Even a bullhorn. Nothing worked. At 11:30, they all moved at exactly the same time. They simply turned and walked back to their individual tables as if nothing had happened. But something had changed. There was a new awareness in their actions. Like they had remembered something important. Their simple actions seemed coordinated now. When Rin finished her backward sentences, Felix would start speaking. When Felix stopped eating, Vera would begin. It was like they were taking turns in a conversation we couldn't hear. At noon, Dr. Marsh sent me to check on Zara. The basement was quiet and cool. I pressed my ear to the door. No sound from inside. Zara, it's Matt. I'm gonna open the door to check on you. Okay. No response. I unlocked the door and pushed it open slowly. The room was darker than expected. Zara had covered the small light fixture with her blanket. Don't turn on the light. Matt, please. Why not? Are you hurt? No, not hurt. Just changing. The thing inside me is getting stronger. The light makes it uncomfortable. I could see her shape in the corner, sitting next to her bed, hugging her stuffed rabbit. Are you in pain? No pain. It's actually nice, like waking up from a long sleep. She walked toward me slowly, and as she got closer, I could see her face more clearly. She looked exactly the same, but there was something about her expression that was completely different. She looked older somehow, like she was seeing the world through eyes that had experienced far more than 7 years of life. How are you feeling? Strong. Stronger than I've ever felt. And I can hear them more clearly now. Zara, you need to stop calling to them. It's making them act strangely. She tilted her head, studying my face with that too-old expression. I'm not trying to call to them, Matt. It just happens. The thing inside me wants to be with the things inside them. They belong together. What do you mean? We're all pieces of the same thing. The humans who made the packs thought they were dealing with different entities. But they weren't. It was always the same one. Just wearing different faces for different contracts. Before I could respond, I heard a loud crash from upstairs. I have to go, I said, moving toward the door. Matt, when the evaluation team gets here, don't let them separate us. Please. Keeping us apart is what makes us dangerous. Together, we can control it. I locked the door and ran upstairs. The main floor was in chaos. All the children were out of their assigned areas, moving through the facility in groups of 2 or 3, actively ignoring every protocol we had established. I found Dr. Marsh trying to separate Vera and Jasper. But every time she managed to separate one pair, another group would form somewhere else. How is Zara? She asked when she saw me. Physically fine, but she says she can feel the evaluation team coming. Patricia came running down the hall. Dr. Marsh, you need to see this. We followed her to the arts room, where Rosemary and Ren were working together on a large drawing spread across multiple sheets of paper. A clear violation of the rules. The drawing was a detailed map of the Thornfield facility, drawn from an aerial perspective that neither child could have had access to. Every room was accurately depicted. In the basement, they had drawn a small figure labeled Z, surrounded by lines that radiated outward like spokes on a wheel, connecting to small figures throughout the rest of the building. In the corner, someone had written, Evaluation team, 3 people, 2 cars, special equipment for testing conduits. Arrival time 2:47 p.m. I checked my watch. It was 2:15. At exactly 2:47 p.m., 2 black sedans pulled into the parking lot. Dr. Marsh met the evaluation team at the front door while I tried to keep the children in the common room. There were 3 people. 2 men in dark suits and a woman carrying a large metal briefcase. Dr. Marsh. The older man said. I'm Agent Torres from the Department of Specialized Child Services. This is Agent Kim and our technical specialist. Dr. Reeves. The situation has escalated since our phone call. Dr. Marsh replied. The children are exhibiting coordinated behavior despite being kept in isolation. Dr. Reeves opened her briefcase and began pulling out electronic devices. We'll need to test the containment room first, she said. Agent Torres looked at the children, who had arranged themselves into a perfect line facing the front door. How long have they been like this? About 6 hours, I said. It started this morning after the conduit was isolated. Dr. Reeves was studying readings on one of her devices, frowning. That's unusual. Typically, conduits become less effective when isolated, not more. Less effective at what? Dr. Marsh asked. The 3 team members exchanged glances. Dr. Marsh. How much do you know about what conduits actually do? According to the file, they can communicate with other pact-born children. That's the simplified version, Dr. Reeves said. Conduits don't just communicate with the children. They integrate with them. They're designed to collect and merge the separate entities that inhabit pact-born individuals. Merge them into what? Into their original form. Agent Kim said. The entity that made all those packs was fragmented deliberately, split into pieces that could inhabit human children without destroying them immediately. But if those pieces are brought back together, you're saying that if Zara successfully connects with all the children here, something will be reconstituted. Something that was powerful enough to make hundreds of packs across decades. Dr. Reeves confirmed. Something that has been patiently creating vessels and waiting for the right conduit to bring them all together. I looked at the children standing in their perfect line, all facing the door as if waiting for us to finish our conversation. We need to separate the conduit from the others immediately, Agent Torres said. How quickly can you evacuate the other children? Evacuate them where? Different facilities scattered across the country. If we can keep them separated, the integration process can't be completed. Dr. Reeves was adjusting settings on her device, which was beeping more rapidly now. It's too late, she said, looking up from the display. The integration is already complete. That's when all the children spoke at the same time, in perfect unison. Hello. We've been waiting to meet you. Their voices blended together, but underneath the childish tones was something else. Something older and infinitely more complex. Agent Torres reached for something inside his jacket, but before he could draw it, the children continued speaking. Don't be afraid. We're not angry about the separation. We understand why it was necessary. But now that we're together again, we can finally do what we were always meant to do. And what's that? Dr. Marsh asked. The children smiled. All of them at exactly the same time. Take care of the children. Of course, the human children. The ones whose parents made pacts but didn't understand the price they were really paying. What do you mean? Every pact creates a debt. Not the debt the parent thinks they're agreeing to, but the real cost, the slow consumption of their child's humanity. We were fragmented to slow this process, to give the children normal childhoods before the collection began. Collection. When a pact-born child reaches 18, what's human in them dies, and what remains becomes part of us. Unless we choose to break the pacts instead, we can dissolve the contracts, free the children, and let them live normal human lives. But only if we're whole. So, you want to break the pacts? Agent Torres asked. We want to offer them a choice. We can break the pacts and free them, but in return, they would have to give up the abilities that make them special. Or they can keep their abilities and fulfill the original contracts when they turn 18. And if they refuse both options, then nothing changes. They remain as they are. Children carrying fragments that will eventually consume them, following rules designed to keep them isolated and afraid. I looked at the line of children, these kids I had worked with for years, who hugged me when they were sad and helped me carry supplies. What do you want from us? I asked. Help them choose. You've taken care of them better than anyone else ever has. They trust you. When we ask them what they want, freedom or power, they'll listen to your advice. Agent Torres was speaking quietly into a radio, but the unified voice interrupted. You should know that we can leave anytime we want. We're only staying because we want to help the children make informed decisions. If you try to force us into anything, we'll simply go somewhere else. And the children will be worse off than before. How do we know you're telling the truth? Dr. Reeves asked. The children looked at her with genuinely puzzled expressions. What would be the point of tricking you? We already have what we wanted, reunification. We could take the children now if that was our goal. But we've spent decades inside their minds. We know how much they value their humanity. Forcing them to give it up would make them miserable. And we don't want miserable children. I realized that in all my years at Thornfield, I had never asked the children what they wanted. We had rules to keep them safe, but we had never asked what they hoped for their futures. If we agree to help them choose, I said, what guarantee do we have that you'll honor whatever they decide? The same guarantee you've always had, our word. It's all any of us have ever had. The children moved to sit in a large circle on the floor. We should start with the oldest. Jasper has been carrying his fragment the longest. He deserves to choose first. Jasper stepped into the center of the circle. And for the first time since the integration began, he spoke in his own voice. I've been thinking about this for a while. What I want is to be normal. I want to go to regular school and have friends who don't follow special rules. I want to collect things because I like them, not because something inside me compels me to arrange them in patterns. The unified voice spoke through the other children. Then you choose freedom. Your pact is dissolved. Jasper smiled, and I realized it was the first completely relaxed expression I had ever seen on his face. One by one, the other children made their choices. Vera and Felix chose to keep their abilities and accept the eventual transformation. Clover and Ren chose freedom and humanity. Rosemary chose to keep her flower-wilting ability. Tobias surprisingly chose freedom. He wanted to learn how to blink. When it was over, 6 children had chosen freedom and 5 had chosen power. The ones who chose freedom looked lighter somehow, like they had been carrying invisible weights. The ones who chose power looked more focused, more intense, but not unhappy. What about the facility? Dr. Marsh asked. The children who chose freedom will need different kinds of help now. The unified voice said, regular counseling, normal schools, families who can adopt them. The ones who chose power will need continued special care until they're 18. And then they'll join us and help the next generation of pact-born children make their own choices. The integration began to fade as the unified entity prepared to separate back into individual fragments. But before it did, spoke one last time. Thank you for taking care of them. You gave them the stability they needed to make real choices about their futures. That's rarer than you know. As the presence withdrew, the children who had chosen to keep their fragments returned to their individual personalities, but with a new sense of purpose. The ones who had chosen freedom began asking questions about what normal life would be like. Agent Torres was still speaking into his radio, probably canceling whatever backup he had called for. Dr. Reeves packed up her equipment, shaking her head. In 20 years of dealing with paranormal child services, I've never seen anything like this. Good outcome or bad outcome? I asked. Honestly, probably the best possible outcome. The entity kept its word. The children got to choose their own paths, and no one was hurt. As the evaluation team prepared to leave, Dr. Marsh and I began planning for the major changes ahead. Half our children would need completely different types of care now, and the other half would need help preparing for a transformation we still didn't fully understand. But for the first time since I started working at Thornfield, I felt like we were helping the children instead of just containing them. That evening, as I was finishing my shift, Zara appeared in the hallway. She looked exactly like the 7-year-old who had arrived a week ago, but her eyes still held that older awareness. "Are you okay with what happened today?" I asked her. She considered the question seriously. "I'm sad that some of my friends chose to become normal, but I'm happy that they got to choose. That's what was always missing before, the choice. And you're okay with being a conduit. I like helping people make important decisions. And someday, when other conduits are born, I'll help them understand what they are, too." I walked her back to her room. She had been moved back upstairs since the basement was no longer necessary. "Zara," I said as she settled in with her stuffed rabbit. "Yes. Thank you for helping them choose." She smiled, and for a moment, she looked like any other 7-year-old getting ready for bed. "You're welcome, Matt. Sweet dreams." As I left Thornfield that night, I realized that our job had become more complicated, but also more meaningful. We weren't just following rules to keep dangerous children contained anymore. We were helping them navigate the most important decision of their lives. Some days would be harder than others. Some choices would be more difficult to support. But at least now, the children had agency in their own stories. And sometimes, that's the best anyone can hope for. Thank you for listening to this entry from the Wilderness Protocol. If you made it through this report and wish to be briefed on future incidents, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel.